Hello class, Mr. Guarino here. In this video I'm going to illustrate how to make an animation from that graphic that we made. Let me open that back up. Go to open, same folder, choose my Photoshop file, obviously, open that, and this is what it looked like. So right now we just have one thing, and we want a bunch of frames that we can animate. So what I chose to do is just change some things on this and save it as a different file. But this could be my first frame. So let me first save this. So I'm going to save it as not a Photoshop file with all the stuff going on over here in my layers panel, just a static image, or an image without any Photoshop options in it. So that would be export, quick export PNG, just like a picture file. So this one I'm going to call animated graphic 1. See, it's a PNG file. It's not a Photoshop file. Then I want to change this around a little bit. So what you can do is we have this layer on the bottom that's transparent. If you remember, we put that there when we first started our file. And that's actually going to come in useful because I'm going to put a color underneath there that's different than these red hearts. I don't think I want red. So I'm going to fill it with my bucket tool, and I could turn these things off so I can see what I'm filling, but really if the eyeballs are on, what's selected is where you're going to do your editing. So that layer 1 is selected. So when I click with the paint bucket tool, it's not going to fill these hearts or my name, it's going to fill that empty layer on the bottom because that's what's selected. And let's go with like a yellowish green, like that. Ugh, it's kind of an ugly color, but let's see how that works for what I'm about to do. I went back to my move tool just because I like that cursor better. So, and I forgot, of course, to click with the bucket tool. There we go. So now you can see that green over there. Go back to my move tool just because I like that. And then I'm going to click on this layer. And the blending option right now is normal, meaning this layer, pattern fill 1, covers layer 1. And Mr. G is on top of pattern fill 1. But I don't have to have this normal. I can change my blending option. And as I change it, you'll see, oops, I clicked by accident. You can see how the blending options changes the colors. So, I mean, that right there looks pretty cool. You know, it's got the yellow border around it, the little black almost shadow to it. Some of these other ones, I mean, that doesn't look like anything, right? So that's kind of silly. Oops, clicked again by accident. That's like a totally different color. That might be good later on. Well, where was that one? I kind of like this. So now that's like basically the same file, the same picture, but different. So I'm going to do File, Export, Quick PNG, and save it as Graphic Animation 2. Or Animated Graphic 2, sorry. And then I'm going to, what was that one I said looked pretty cool? This one. But maybe I don't want this green or bluish on top of the green. So maybe over here I could double click this and change something to give it a different color. If I click this and go here, there we go. So now it really stands out. And say OK. So you just change anything you want just to make it look different. And then File, Export, Quick PNG, make that number 3. The more you do, the better it'll look. I'll do 4, so I don't want to waste your time looking, but you want to do 5, 8, 10, whatever. And then the last one, I think maybe I'll just change this color on the bottom. Maybe we'll go back to like a purplish. That looks kind of good. Remember, you're not actually going to see that. It's just how the hearts get blended to it. So now, maybe, oops, that's supposed to be on normal. That layer, it's the layer above it that you blend into it. So let's see. I don't know. I guess I like that. You play around with it, find what you like. I'm not good with colors, I'm not good with art, but I'm good with Photoshop tools. I can show you how to use that, and then you guys make something that's even better. So quick, nicer looking, more artistic. Quick export PNG, make that number 4, say save, and then you can save this Photoshop file and it'll be saved with these options, or don't save it and it'll be the original options. So say no after I close it out. And if I go back, by the way, if you ever want to open the last one you just did, open recent, oops. And so see, this is the way it was to begin with, because I didn't save it after I made my changes. I'm going to close that out. Now I'm going to do a new one. And I'm going to do File, but instead of New, we're going to go down to Scripts and say Load Files into Stack. And really what this does is just open 4 files at once, or 5, or 6, or 10, whatever you did. A nice thing to select a bunch, you can click once, hold down Control, and click, click, click. You can click once and hold down Shift and press the down arrow. Control click is good if you want to click on one and click on another one that's not like next to it. A good one I like is click once on top, hold down Shift, click the last thing, boom, you get everything in between as well. That's probably my favorite one, favorite shortcut for selecting things. And I got all 4 selected. I say OK. And basically what it did was just open 4 files and put them each in its own layer. And that's what we wanted. Now we have to make an animation. And the animation panel, use the correct Photoshop word, is not on by default in the Essentials workspace. But we can put it on. Click Window and go to Timeline. Used to be called Animation, now they call it Timeline. Notice over here it says Frame Animation. If it says Video, you can always switch it later, but switch it now. Make it Frame Animation and then click this button, Create Frame Animation. It puts the top layer here into the animation, but we want all the layers there. So all we have to do is click this lined button and go up to Make Frames from Layers. So now every layer is a frame in our animation. Notice that they all say 0 seconds, so I mean if I play it, I guess it takes some time to do it, but it's really blinking fast. I don't know how you can be there for 0 seconds. That kind of doesn't make sense. So I think it'd be better if you click this and say select all frames, and then click the drop down on any one of them and change it, and it changes all of them. If you only have one selected and you change that, then only the time for that frame is 2 seconds, then the rest would be 1 second. And you could do that if you want. You could make them different if you want, but I kind of think in this animation I want them all to be the same. So I select all, and then I choose a number, and then they're all the same. Maybe one's too short, but I think I want them all the same. I also want this on forever. It should be there by default, but just double check. Of course, you could have an animation play once, play 3 times, some other thing, or most GIFs play forever. They just continually repeat. So that would make more sense. And then if you want to preview it, this is what it looks like when you hit the play button. If you think that's too fast, select all of them, and instead of 1 second, make it 2 seconds. So from 1 to 2. I kind of like 2 better. So now I'm basically done. If I want to save this as a Photoshop file, save as on my computer, save on my computer, go to my animated graphic folder. We're not going to call it animated graphic again. We'll just call it, I don't know, graphic animation. It's kind of the same thing. Oops, I hit the caps lock. Animation. And say save. And say OK. But now that's a Photoshop file. You can open it in Photoshop and play it in Photoshop. You can't put it on a website. So to get it on a website, we have to go, or any other place where you present this information, we have to go down to export. And we're going to choose Save for Web Legacy. It's a GIF, and it's 700 to 400. You can see over here looping options says forever because it knows it's an animation. You don't have to change anything. Just leave it the way it is and say save. Just make sure it is on GIF, not JPEG or PNG or anything. Make sure it's on GIF. It should be because it knows it's an animation. And make sure it says forever over here. Then click save. And then not the downloads folder. I know I say it all the time. Go to your drive. And before it was graphic animation PSD for Photoshop, .psd. Now what they do is they take the name and they put dashes in between, hyphens in between the words, and it's going to be .gif. So save. And Photoshop, when you do something, even if it's saving it or exporting something, you get the little asterisk over here that makes it look like you didn't save it, even though we just did. So when I go to close it, it's going to say, do you want to save it? You can just say yes, or you could say no, it's already been saved. But it thinks you did something because you exported a GIF. Right, so now I can close Photoshop, and I can close this here as well. And I can go to my folder, and if I double click the GIF one, graphic animation, that should open up in whatever picture viewer I have set on my computer by default. I don't even know what it is. I guess it's like Microsoft Photo Viewer or something. It might open in someone's browser. So if I was to right click on it, I can say open, where's open with? And I don't have Chrome on the list, I have Firefox, so I'll just use that. And this is how it looks in a browser. Firefox, Chrome, Edge, whatever. In fact, I have my test portfolio open. Earlier in the year we did if you're in my class that had done a portfolio or anything with a website, you could add this to your website. So here's my test portfolio. I'll just click images, select, and recent, it's right there, which is nice. Insert. If it isn't, then obviously go to your drive, double click this, animated graphic. Now you would have to make sure you find the one that's the GIF. And that's why it's good to have those extensions, because sometimes names could be the same, but the .gif is the actual animation one. And there you go. Now this is the design of it, but if I go here and I say publish first, I guess. And then view publish site. And then I have an animation that I made on my website. Pretty cool. Alright, thank you.